What's going on, great people? Welcome back. I am JB the Great. You can follow me on Twitter at JB the Great. Be mindful, this is a warning. If you're a liberal or if you're a Democrat, you may not like my tweets. So don't even bother to follow me. But today we're going to check out an interview that Tucker Carlson did about a week or two ago, and it's going to lay out perfectly why black people should walk away from the Democratic Party. Now, I come to you as myself where I'm not going to talk like I've been some lifelong conservative, some lifelong Republican, hardcore, or whatever. I just recently got into politics and started to educate myself with politics. And once you get into that, I guess, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Once you get that bug, like you just can't stop. And the more you get into it, the more you also want to do, um, like you want to go back into history and actually see how the parties turned out the way that they have turned out. Now, black people, um, a lot of us, including myself, we grow up in environments that make it seem like we are born into the Democratic Party, which is it shouldn't be the case. But I used to blame that on the parents. But as you gain more knowledge and dive deeper into things, you come to terms and you come to realize that not only do the parents play a big role in that, but also the schools and the colleges, the media, the news, everything is shaping not just black people, but everyone, as many people as they can brainwash. But with black people, it's in media, it's in news articles, it's heavily influencing the radio stations, especially the black radio stations like the Breakfast Club, radio stations like DL Hughley, Steve Harvey, um, shows like The View. All of these outlets are being used to warp and shape your mind to make it seem as if Republicans and conservatives are the bad guys. They make it seem like the Democrats are doing so much to fight for you, to work for you, advocating on behalf of you. They want to fight for your freedom. They want to fight for your rights. When you take a breath and take a step back, you got to ask yourself, what rights do we not, as black people, what rights do we not have that any other group of people don't have? Wherever you look, no matter if it's in whatever line of employment, whether it's in the doctor's office, whether it's in real estate, whether it's in media, whether it's in uh, physical health or whatever, sport, whatever, you're going to see a large percentage of black people occupying those positions. So when you see Democrats come to your city, or when you see Democrats on TV, when you listen to the radio, when you listen to the news, and they preach this stuff about fighting for your rights and your freedom, next time you hear that, I want you to ask yourself, what freedom are you fighting for exactly? What freedom are you fighting for? Because I have all the freedom that the next man has. And a lot of times Democrats won't they like to base their campaigns around fighting for voters' rights. Right? But there's nothing stopping a black person from voting. In most cases, the only thing states want is they want you to show your ID. What's the issue with showing your ID? It's not hard getting an ID, getting a driver. If you're driving, that's your ID. Your driver's license is your ID. So if showing your ID to vote in America is an issue, then it should be an issue to obtain your driver's license, to be forced to have a driver's license to drive on these streets as well. So, black people, I advise any black person that listens to this to wake up. The Democratic Party is not the party of the black community. No matter what race hustlers tell you, no matter what black Democrats tell you, once you vote these people in, you never see or hear from them again. Unless there's some type of an event that happens or take place, like a police shooting. They may come out. They may hold a little rally or whatnot. But that's only because it fits the narrative of their chief, which is the Democratic president. Whatever the president lays out, if he's a Democrat, their job, their sole purpose of occupying these seats after you vote for them, it's not for you. It's not for we, the people. It's to aid the president in pushing his agenda. If you download the app, I think it's called Pocket Congress, and if you live in a state that has Democratic representatives and a Democratic Senates, check their voting history. A lot of times these Democratic Senates are 100% in line with the Democratic president. So forget the people. Once they get into these offices, it's no longer the people. It's to push the agenda of the president. And as you can see now, up under Joe Biden, America is last. Just take a look at Chicago, for example. I see news segments that involve Chicago residents dealing with this illegal migrant crisis constantly. The people, the citizens, they voted for a Democratic mayor. This mayor went into office and has done absolutely nothing for the residents of Chicago. But yet, he's welcoming illegal immigrants. And now illegal immigrants have taken over Chicago. And guess who has to fit the bill for these illegal immigrants? That's coming from the taxpayers. It's coming from the government. The governments are spending millions on these illegal immigrants. Forget the people of Chicago. Not only are they spending millions on these illegal immigrants, they're going into the black neighborhoods and taking things over like parks, hotels. In some instances, they're even building new places of residence for these illegal immigrants. But what are they doing for the homeless? What are they doing for the residents? Nothing. But yet, you all continue to vote for these Democrats each and every election cycle. And I know, I get it. You don't want to vote for Republicans. Why? Because we rarely see Republicans in the neighborhood. Republicans don't come talk to us. They don't come share their plans or their vision with us. They're more in the other area of the city, the other area of the town. But that doesn't mean you should not vote, because a no vote is damn near the same thing as a vote for the Democrat. If you do not vote, that's damn near saying we don't care. No. Make it your business to go vote against the people that you're continuing to vote for that's destroying your cities. Vote against them. Just don't sit home and not vote. Get out and vote against them. And once you vote against them, don't even wait until you have to vote against them. Demand that your Republican representation come to your areas, because it's time for a change. It's time for a change. Republicans, you guys, you have to start going to the neighborhoods where you think people aren't casting votes for you guys. I understand a lot of you guys pay attention to the data, and your teams tell you which areas are voting for you, which side of town you're highly likely to win in. But man, scratch all that. Start going to these cities. Start going to the areas where you're not popular in. The reason people aren't voting for you or aren't considering to vote for you is because they never see or hear from you. And it works both ways. Once again, I say, the citizens, you see that the Democrats are treating you poorly and treating you like shit and using you only for your vote. Stop worrying about Democrats. Reach out to the Republicans. And I know some black people may say, oh, the Republican Party is the party of the racists, this, that, and the third. Do a history check. Democrats is the party where the KKK originated from. Democrats is the party where the larger percentage of the Democrats voted against the Civil Rights Bill. Democrats is the party of pro-segregation. Democrats is the party that's mainly responsible for taking the father out of the homes and destroying families with government assistance. Democrats is the party that don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to have private ownership of anything. They want you to be dependent on the government. That's why they allow you to go out and destroy your cities. They allow you to go out and loot your stores. Their policies are raising mortgage rates, cost of living, gas prices are up. Jobs are having layoffs. All of this to get you in the mindset of giving up. Once you give up, who do you have left to depend on? Well, if you don't believe in God, you're going to depend on the government. And that's what the Democrats are hoping for. They don't care about your complaints. They don't care that illegal immigrants are overrunning your cities, taking over your neighborhoods. They don't care. They don't care that gas is high as hell at the gas pump. They don't care that cost of living is up. They don't care. So black people, all people that have been in the trance of Democrat for however long, it's time to wake up. Black people, just because you decide to vote for a Republican, that does not make you a coon. Get rid of this group mentality. Get rid of this own code mentality. You're not the entire black community is not your responsibility. Your responsibility is you, yourself, your family, not the rest of the black community. If Buddy go out, loot a store, get in a high speed, resist arrest and all this stuff, man, that does not involve you. He made that individual decision on his own. That does not involve you, neither does it impact you or affect you. Your everyday life does not involve encounters with white supremacy, systemic racism, none of that, no matter what the race hustlers tell you or anything. But I've been rambling enough. Let's get into this video, man. Let's get into this video.
Like a good man to ask. He's the author of Crime, Inc. He joins us now. Vince, thanks so much for coming on. So as with so many other stories, the origin
thanks for having me, Tucker.
of COVID, it's a blessing to have you. We now know what actually happened, but the question then is, what do you do with that knowledge? We know that the U.S. government, Tony Fauci, worked with the Chinese to create the virus that overturned the American economy, but what do we do with that knowledge? What do we do with the knowledge that George Floyd was not actually strangled to death by a cop?
We have to acknowledge the people that gave it to us and why. See, George Floyd is the Democratic Party's prototypical black man. These are the black men they are trying to create. So George Floyd has to be elevated. He has to be celebrated. He's perfect to them. He was poor. He was uneducated. He was a drug addict. He didn't have a job. He was down there begging and crying and asking the white people to not kill him. to a Democrat, to a white Democrat, this is the perfect black man. So he has to be elevated. Look, not a few days ago, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden celebrated hip-hop music. They had a celebration of hip-hop.
Hip-hop culture is America's culture. It is a genre. It is music and melody and rhyme. And hip-hop is also an ethos.
A music genre that calls the black man the N-word, calls women the W word and the B word, talks about misogyny, shooting police, smoking dope, selling dope, fighting, killing, acting a fool. They celebrated this genre. Why? Because this is how they see black America. They see us the same way they see George Floyd. And they have to make more of us because everywhere they rule, you know, John F. Kennedy stood in front of the Berlin Wall in the 60s and said, if you think that communism is great, let them come to Berlin. Well, if you think that the Democratic Party is great, let them come to Detroit. Let them come to Chicago. Let them come to St. Louis. Let them come to L.A., Portland, Seattle, Memphis. Anywhere where they rule, you will see George Floyd's all over the place. And they're proud of them. In Baltimore, Maryland, they spend $21,000 per child for every child up there inside the school district. Not one school is proficient in math, science, or reading. But they keep it going every year. Why? Because they're producing George Floyds.
But
and George Floyd's vote for the Democratic Party.
But why would, so when most of us, you, me, I think all normal people look at George Floyd's life, you think this is a disaster. This guy never added anything. He took a lot in prison at least 8 times. I mean, his life was a tragedy at best. Why would you want more people like that?
Because he votes for the Democrat Party, and then he teaches his children to vote for the Democrat Party. And then these white Democrats can feel superior to him. Yeah. He can be controlled by them. Just like, think about an old slave plantation, talk back in the day, how they wanted their slaves to act. Subservient, obedient, ignorant, you know, doing what he was told, not asking any questions, having a slave mind, being dependent on them. This is how they want black men to be in America. This is how they want the whole black community to be. This is why it started in the Civil Rights Movement when Martin Luther King Jr. in his I Have a Dream speech said, 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, the Negro is still not free. He said 5 times in that speech that we were not free. It turned the Declaration of Independence on its head because in our Declaration of Independence it said that our freedom was an unalienable right given us by God. John Locke, in his second treatise of government, said that an unalienable right is a right given from God. It is irrevocable, non-transferable, and unsellable. The government cannot touch it. It supersedes law. It supersedes the Constitution. However, King said that we was coming to government and to the white man for our right to be free. Even at the end of the speech, he said, on some certain day we'll be free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last. He said in that speech, when will we be satisfied? He said, we will never be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. That's a fancy way of saying never. And so black people heard that speech and said that we were not free here in America. And we make our children recite that speech every single year on King's birthday. And they say in that speech, the Negro is still not free. George Floyd was a slave in his mind. And the Civil Rights Movement caused him to be a slave in his mind. And today they're still marching, 60 years later, telling black people, you're not free. Beg for reparations. Beg for affirmative action. Kill your children in the womb. Cut off your child. You castrate your children. Let drag queens come into school and shake their behinds in your children's faces. Run God out of the public square. And then they end up like George Floyd. But the one thing they do consistently is they vote for the Democrat Party, and the places where George Floyd's live, they stay in absolute power.
That's a pretty dark explanation. So you're saying that the Democratic Party as an organization intentionally degrades black people to keep them compliant and obedient.
Oh yes, in my book Crime Inc. I talk about one of the main things they do, like the mafia and organized crime. They humiliate black people. They demoralize them. It's a Marxist.
And that's pathetic. That's pathetic. And black people continue to support the Democratic Party religiously. even through all of this, it's like they can't see what's going on. They're being brainwashed from every single aspect of life. It's news, it's radio, it's music, it's their celebrities advocating against the Republicans and treating the Republicans as if they're the enemy of the people, when really the enemy of the people are the ones that you're supporting each and every day. Every vote you cast. So if someone asks you, like, who are you voting for? Which anybody gonna ask you that, but they might. But and your immediate answer is, oh, I'm voting Democrat. That's a problem. That's a problem. For people to fight, black people love to say the right to vote was fought for. But it's like your vote is now being used to continue to enslave you, because you feel like your vote only supposed to go to the Democrat. So what was the purpose of fighting for the freedom to vote? The KKK tortured both white and black Republicans for voting for Republicans. They used to stand outside of voting booths to make sure and to intimidate people to not vote for the Republicans because they were working for the Democrats. But yet in 2023, black people feel that their vote should automatically be cast for Democrats. That's still slavery of the mind, if you ask me. You're not worried about the policies. You're not worried about what's going on beyond a black face, wanting to see a black face and wanting to vote for a Democrat. I'll tell you, an instance in Atlanta. You got Herschel Walker and you got Raphael Warnock. The reason that race was so close is because Raphael Warnock isn't doing a damn thing for Georgia. Raphael is the Democrat. Herschel Walker is the Republican. I guarantee you the only reason Raphael Warnock won is because of places like DeKalb County that has a higher percentage of black people. And those black people in the hoods feel like they should automatically vote for a Democrat because the Democrat cares about them. Wrong, man. Wrong. Just recently, let me tell you how much Raphael Warnock, the Democrat, cares about you. Just recently, the people in Atlanta know that he owns some apartment buildings and units or whatnot. Just recently, I seen an article, you can look it up, where he evicted a person for being behind on their rent for $100. Democrat Raphael Warnock, who also supposed to be a pastor. But this pastor is also a Democrat, and the Democrats support abortion and don't care about a 15-week ban, or 8-week ban, or whatever. In some cases, you're able to get abortions up until the time you're ready to have the baby. Now, abortion is a sensitive topic, but there's just one policy concern. And you shouldn't be basing your entire vote on one single issue, abortion. I know women feel that, oh, it's our bodies, our choice or whatnot. That goes towards the same instance of the jab, the COVID vaccine. C-19, they forced you all to get the jab, and there was no backlash. Nobody was saying my body, my choice. So you can't overlook one thing and then praise another. Like, come on, man. But at the end of the day, it's on you as an individual to dive deeper into politics. Stop throwing your votes away and expecting different results.